StudyIQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है करम योगी दिवाकर बोथरा एंड आई वार्मली वेलकम all of you in our series Know Your Concepts in 5 minutes. Today we are going to discuss an important concept where we see this concept has often been used, abused, reused, debated and redebated quite often in the world of social sciences, that is called as feminism. My goal here is not to dwell into detailed aspects of feminism, the types of feminism. My goal here is to make you understand what exactly is the core principle of feminism and what are the various strands of feminism and what has been the historical evolution of feminism in society. All these PPTs and all the content which I often undertake here at StudyIQ platform, YouTube, all those content would be available at my Telegram channel, which I've often been telling you in the various videos which I've already seen. All these PPTs would be available once the video is uploaded there. So let's look into what is feminism. If you look into feminism, it's a political movement and an ideology that seeks to advance the social role of women. Now, first understand this. Why this term political movement is often used? Because when the first wave of feminism came, it focused on the political rights. That is voting rights. Many times you people often just read through and go. Unfortunate that majority of you who are watching this, they do not even dwell on each and every word mentioned in a particular definition. You never question, because this can be a very serious question in your pol science or for that matter sociology, philosophy, that feminism is more a political ideology than being a social movement. Discuss, and you would be caught in such a trap where you'd only be writing stories and gathas and you will not be writing any content, and the examiner would give a blunt 0 on your face. That's the only reason why these concepts are there. It may hurt your sentiments here, but that's okay, man. Ultimately, the goal here, those who are watching, is to crack this examination, to develop a better understanding and deeper understanding of the concepts. So remember, it's a political movement and an ideology that seeks to advance the role or interest of women. Over a period of time, this political movement largely became an ideology, and the word hence the feminism appeared. Therefore, feminist or feminism are talking about both the political rights as well as overall an ideology in order to improve or empower the woman's position in the society. Let's look into further the concept of feminism, the core of feminism. Irrespective of the strands of feminism which we are talking about, there is minute variations and many times there are major differences present between the different forms of feminism. But here in this context, if you see, the core of feminism largely lies at these two aspects. The first principle upon which the feminist ideology is largely based is the central concept of patriarchy. Almost all the feminism does take into account or does consider the notion of patriarchy. Some gives primacy to patriarchy being responsible for the woman's subordination. Some, however, advocate that the capitalism or other mindsets, languages developed the notion of patriarchy. But however, the patriarchy remains an important aspect of every feminism. Some, maybe it is more important, to some it may not be the primary factor, it may be the manifestations of certain other factors upon which their feminist ideology is based. We'll come to know that in a while. But yes, the patriarchy remains one of the core principles. Now the question comes is, what exactly is the patriarchy? Patriarchy is largely an ideology and a structure which leads to subordination of women and empowerment of men. This is the precise definition of patriarchy which you should be writing, whether it's Indian society, political science, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, history, or anywhere else. I'll repeat the definition again. Patriarchy is an ideology, is an ideology and a system which subordinates the woman and empowers the men. That means these two aspects are very important. Anything which is merely leading to suppression of women will not be considered as patriarchy, because in patriarchy, not just subordination should exist, but the empowerment of the opposite sex should also be present there. Coming to the next core of feminism, most feminists view gender as a political construct, usually based upon stereotypes of feminine and masculine values. Almost all the feminists largely opine that the division is between the feminine and masculine characteristics. The masculine characteristics are largely celebrated because the people who dominates in the politics largely create such a mindsets and ideological upbringing is conducted in such a manner that the masculine ideologies are celebrated and is considered as superior when compared to the feminine identities. You often see that a particular boy having a feminine characteristics would largely be outcast by the very boys group or the men's group of their respective places. Therefore, ultimately, this patriarchy is to be considered as based upon the very construct of feminine and masculine values. Not the types of feminism. There are multiple forms of feminism: liberal feminism, Marxist feminism, communist feminism, postmodern feminism, radical feminism. But just to give you a glance or a basic understanding, liberal feminism is a feminism which talks about the empowerment of women, where their goal is not to bring equality per se, rather than the goal is to largely remove those factors which subordinates women. Hence, they talk about legal reforms, political reforms, educational and economic reforms. And they consider patriarchy as the primary cause behind women's subordination. The socialist and Marxist feminist, on the other hand, advocate it's not the patriarchy per se, rather than it is the capitalism which is responsible for the development of patriarchy, as it's the capitalism which largely restricted women's within the house, and the men started going to factories, which only happened when the capitalism came in the society. Therefore, the cause of subordination is capitalism, and hence they believe that the economic changes has to be the primary aspect. But the variation between these two lies in socialist belief that the empowerment can take place within the capitalism by reforming it. Marxist, on the other hand, because of their ideological originating or can be traced back to Marx, they believe that the capitalism, till the time it exists, subordination would not be taken care of. Therefore, one has to largely go to communist society. Fall of capitalism would lead to empowerment of women. Radical feminists, on the other hand, opine that it is the very biology of the women which is keeping that subordinated. Therefore, this biology creates dependency of women on men, and as a result, this biological dependency needs to be reduced, which is today possible because of the rise of technology. Beside this, the postmodern feminists and others do exist, but these three feminists are things which you should definitely keep in mind when you're writing any answers, or specifically when you're preparing for a competitive examination. Evolution of feminism. The first wave of feminism 1850s में आता है, which demanded political rights. As I made it clear in the initial phase, feminism was a social movement. Second wave comes from 1960s, where the goal was the women liberation, and 1970s aftermath we do see third wave of feminism, which was completely critical to women violence. So this was, in a very simple form, feminism. The depth of the feminism is so huge that even 3 hours here would not be sufficient to discuss this. But I hope in these 5 to 10 minutes, I have tried to cover the very essence of feminism. And the batch for sociology, the August batch, or in fact, really telling you this is the August batch. And do join this up and really feel the difference in your sociological preparations. Thank you.
StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।